1984, Hasbro bought the North American distribution rights to the molds of the Diaclone and Microchange toy lines from Japanese toy company Takara, rebranding them the Transformers for distribution in North America. Little did they know that these simple toys that transform from robots to vehicles would spawn a toy franchise that would become a phenomenon and continue to this day. Hasbro approached Marvel Comics to create a backstory with names and short descriptions for each character. Bob Budiansky took on this chore and created the names of every Generation 1 character except one and their personal backstories, and thus the Transformers were born. In this episode of Tony's Comic Spotlight, we celebrate the first appearances of the heroic Autobots and the evil Decepticons by shining the spotlight on the Transformers, issue number 1 by Marvel Comics from 1984. The Transformers. The planet Cybertron, home of sentient robots known as the Transformers, has been at war for millions of years, putting the peacefaring Autobots at war against the evil, war-hungry Decepticons led by the evil Cybertron. The devastation wrought by the war would send planet Cybertron out of its orbit, spinning throughout the cosmos on an indirect course, and into the path of an asteroid belt that threatens to destroy their homeworld unless something is done. Autobot Commander Optimus Prime is selected by the Autobot Elders to lead a team to destroy the meteors before it's too late. Optimus Prime selects a crew that consists of the following Autobots: Bumblebee, Cliffjumper, Brawn, Puffer, Gears, Jazz, Prowl, Ironhide, Ratchet, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Trailbreaker, Wheeljack, Mirage, and Hound to journey out in their ship the Ark to destroy the meteors. Learning of this, Megatron gathers a team of his own Decepticon warriors to attack and destroy the Autobots. With him, he takes Soundwave, Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, Grumble, Frenzy, and Ravage to attack. With the battle leaning toward Decepticon victory, Optimus Prime, foreseeing this possibility, sets the Ark on a suicidal collision course with the nearest planet, which is to be Earth. They crash into an active volcano, destroying them all. Some 4 billion years later, at the site of the crash at what is now known as Mount St. Hilary in Oregon, the Ark's computers spring to life, sending out a probe to scan what it thinks are the planet's sentient machinery. The ship's repair systems repair all the Transformers aboard indiscriminately, repairing the Decepticons first and giving them the ability to transform into Earth machines. They manage to escape before the newly revived Autobots can stop them. Scanning their computers to learn about the world they have crashed on, Optimus Prime decides that the best course of action is to send out some Autobots to do reconnaissance before they do whatever needs to be done to protect this world from the Decepticons they unwittingly released on this world. Elsewhere in the state of Oregon, Buster Witwicky, the son of mechanic Sparkplug Witwicky, arrives home late from school and gets in trouble with his father, who is frustrated with his son for not having an interest in mechanics like he does. With the day's work in his garage just about done, he allows his son Buster to take the family car out to take his friend O and his girlfriend Jessie out to the theater. Meanwhile, the Autobots Bumblebee, Cliffjumper, Brawn, Prowl, and Hound are on the road getting a lay of the land in their area. They happen upon a drive-in movie theater and, thinking that the cars parked there are sentient beings, find it odd that they are focused on a large screen. On their journey, they are spied on by Laserbeak, who reports back to Megatron. The Decepticon leader decides to send a Decepticon attack force to ambush the revived Autobots. The Autobots arrive at the theater, and Bumblebee, in an attempt to greet an Earth car, bumps into it. This car happens to be the one that Buster and his friends are in. Buster gets out of the car to yell at the person who bumped him and is shocked to find there is no driver inside the car. Suddenly, Soundwave, Ravage, Laserbeak, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp attack the theater, prompting the Autobots to transform into robot mode and fight back. The humans flee the drive-in, the Autobots fight back, sending the Decepticons in retreat. But not before one of their blasts can strike Bumblebee. The other Autobots, realizing that the sentient life forms on this planet are organic, not mechanical, transform into vehicle mode and make their escape before the Decepticons can counter-attack. In the chaos, Buster notices that Bumblebee is leaking a fluid that is not oil and decides to take the car back to his garage in an attempt to repair it. He is surprised to find that there is no ignition on the car and is even more surprised when it starts up on its own. Working hard in a futile effort to try and fix the car, the racket that Buster makes wakes up his father. Sparkplug is decided to see his son trying to fix up a car on his own, not trying to listen to Buster's explanation about it. However, Sparkplug is shocked when Buster tells him that the car is alive and it weakly asks for their help. The story is continued next issue. The designs for the original 28 Transformers were made by renowned anime character and mecha designers Shoji Kawamori and Kazutaka Miyatake. The majority of the characters featured in this issue, notably Ironhide and Ratchet, are drawn exactly as the toys the characters were modeled after. As the limited series progresses, the characters begin adopting a stylistic look that matches that of the Transformers cartoon series. Likely due to an unfamiliarity with the licensed characters, artist Frank Springer lacks consistency in drawing the characters' appearances, and in some of the earlier panels draws characters resembling Autobots as part of the Decepticon army and vice versa. Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime, is a prolific voice actor and has lent his smooth voice to plenty of other characters in plenty of different television shows and movies. Some of his various voice credits include Eeyore in the numerous Winnie the Pooh shows and movies, the narrator from the Voltron TV series, and was the voice of the Predator in the original movie, though he went uncredited in that one. Cullen has played Optimus in most of the character's appearances since the character's debut in the 1980s, with his voice appearing in television shows, movies, video games, and more. In addition, Cullen was also the original voice of Prime's Conrad, Ironhide. Despite what Michael Bay Transformers movies would have you believe, the Transformers were originally a more international bunch. Before he was a Chevrolet Camaro, Bumblebee was a Volkswagen Beetle, and Jazz was a Martini Porsche 935 long before he was a Pontiac Solstice. The Americanization of the Transformers in the movies was a result of Michael Bay approaching American automakers and reaching a partnership as a way to save money. In later movies, you'd see the cast expand to more international automakers as Audi, Ferrari, and Mercedes would jump on the Transformers bandwagon to get their cars in the films. The GoBots are actually Transformers now. Similar to the Hydrox and Oreo cookie situation, the GoBots actually preceded the Transformers by a few years, but the latter's eventual popularity would lead to the former being perceived as a knockoff. After Hasbro bought Tonka in the 90s, they acquired the rights to the GoBots names and characters. Hasbro would slowly start to incorporate the GoBots into their Transformer lines, mixing the two former rivaling toy lines. The GoBots toys are primarily used in lines aimed at preschoolers, an age group that almost certainly doesn't know anything about the old GoBots Transformers rivalry. Despite being the hero and the leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime has a tendency to die a whole lot. Across all the different versions of films, comics, and television, Optimus Prime has died approximately 25 times. He's been blown up, shot, torn to pieces, and a whole lot more. In the early Marvel Comics appearance, Optimus Prime gets a human observer to destroy him after he beats Megatron in a virtual reality video game, but fails to save some of the innocent bystanders in the video game. Optimus dying has become such a routine that there's a whole page devoted to his many deaths in the Transformers wiki. Like most other giant robots, Transformers came from Japan. Before they were the Transformers that we know and love, there were actually two different toy lines, Diaclone and Microchange. Hasbro would buy American distribution rights to the two lines from Japanese toy company Takara, using their molds to produce the figurines. Hasbro would also rebrand the two different lines as opposing sides of a warring alien race, giving us the Autobots and the Decepticons. After securing the rights, Hasbro had Marvel Comics writer Bob Budiansky create most of the backstory and history for the resulting Transformers, giving us many of the characters that we know today. After the Transformers proved popular, Hasbro would eventually buy all the rights to the Transformers line, making them the sole owner of it. Though he would have multiple forms over the years, Megatron's original and most well-known secondary form was that of a Walther P-38 handgun. This was changed into a Cybertronian jet for the 2007 movie, with co-writer Alex Kurtzman saying about the change, "That would be the equivalent of Darth Vader turning into his own lightsaber and someone else swinging him around." It isn't only the makers of the 2007 movie that have a problem with Megatron transforming into a gun, as it's prohibited to import the action figure into Australia due to the violent implications of the toy gun. Despite continuing to sell relatively well in other parts of the world, in the early 90s, sales of the Transformers toy lines were waning to such a degree in the United States that it couldn't support a comic or a TV show anymore, and was in danger of cancellation altogether. Hasbro kicked the line to their subsidiary Kenner Toys, who came up with Beast Wars. The fun new toy line, coupled with a well-received animated television show, helped to save the brand and keep it from being relegated to the bins of nostalgia for many other toy lines and series of the era would eventually face. After purchasing the rights of Takara's amazing robots that would disguise themselves as planes, trains, and automobiles, Hasbro needed help preparing the toys for the American market. In particular, they needed help coming up with snazzy new names for the figures that would be the leaders of the Transformers warring robot factions. During this delicate development phase of the toy line, Hasbro called Marvel Comics for help. Marvel's then editor-in-chief Jim Shooter and writers Denny O'Neil and Bob Budiansky responded to the call. O'Neil came up with the name for Optimus Prime, and Budiansky created the name for Megatron. Shooter developed an 8-page treatment for the characters that provided a detailed backstory explaining the contentious relationship between the Autobots and Decepticons, and also penned a breakdown of the personalities and moral alignments of several of the robots. The Transformers first saw the big screen in 1986 when it was adapted into a feature film aptly titled Transformers the Movie. Among the multiple battles between the Autobots and Decepticons, they find the planet-destroying sentient cyber planet Unicron, who would serve as another villain in the movie. Legendary actor and filmmaker Orson Welles would provide the voice of Unicron, which would be his last role before he passed away in 1985, having already finished his parts before his death. The 2007 film would feature a nod to Welles, as his infamous War of the Worlds broadcast would be one of many broadcasts sampled by Bumblebee as he communicates with Sam Witwicky. Capitalizing off the success of its toys and cartoon, on August 8, 1986, the animated film The Transformers the Movie was released in theaters. In contrast to the mildly violent, action-oriented TV tune, the film was a surprisingly dark thriller that saw not only the shocking death of the beloved leader of the Autobots, but several other characters on both sides of the robot war. Among the casualties in this film's Transformers massacre were Starscream, Skywarp, Thundercracker, Shrapnel, Kickback, Bombshell, Wheeljack, Windcharger, Prowl, Ironhide, and Optimus Prime, whose death had both boys and girls bawling in the theater. In the third season of the TV show, fans discovered that Huffer had also perished off camera during the film, and the reason why the deaths were written into the script was simply to give Hasbro an excuse to produce more toys based on other Transformers introduced in the film. Unarguably, the years of 1972 to 1982 represents the pinnacle of modern Japanese robot culture. 1972 saw the unleashing of the animated giant robot Mazinger Z, soon followed by the related toys and tunes that were repackaged for American kids as Mattel's Shogun Warriors. At the end of this heralded period came Mobile Suit Gundam and the Super Dimension Fortress Macross, aka Robotech, animated shows with toy lines that are still popular to this day. The origin of Shockwave, the imposing Decepticon who can transform into a futuristic laser gun, dates back to the aforementioned robot golden age. Hasbro, eager to expand its surprisingly popular Transformers toy line as quickly as possible after its release in 1984, purchased a license from an existing toy called Astro Magnum, that made by a Korean company called Toyco. So if you ever wondered why Shockwave seemed just a wee bit different from the other Transformers, now you know. Without Robotech, there would be no Jetfire. The previously mentioned Shockwave wasn't the only robot in Hasbro's Transformers toy line that seemed somehow different from its peers. Jetfire, a robot capable of transforming into a fighter jet, was introduced to kids as the rival of Starscream from the Decepticons, but the toy was strangely much larger and more intricately designed than his villainous adversary, and the reason for that is simple: Jetfire wasn't truly a Transformer. Unlike the Diaclone and the Microchange toys that made up the first generation of Transformers, Jetfire was originally a Super Valkyrie fighter in TV's The Super Dimension Fortress Macross, which aired in Japan in 1982, produced by Japanese toy maker Takatoku. The Super Valkyrie was one of the most iconic mecha designs in the 1980s. Recognizing how well it might be received in the West, Hasbro purchased a toy design from Takataku, renamed the robot Jetfire, and added it to the Transformers. Double Homicide. Much to the surprise of Hasbro, young Transformers fans were outraged by the unexpected big-screen death of their beloved Optimus Prime. The outcry, which included sternly worded letters written by the parents of traumatized children, convinced Hasbro to quickly have him resurrected in the television show. Like their American counterparts, Japanese children were similarly affected and were thrilled to have Optimus Prime back. But Takara, the Japanese license owner, didn't agree with Hasbro's decision. Takara was more interested in churning out new toys in conjunction with the show's third season, so 3 episodes after the beloved cartoon character's resurrection and TV's return of Optimus Prime, he was killed off once again in Japan. In the American version of the show, he would continue to lead the Autobots until the cancellation of the television series in November of 1987, shortly after the start of Season 4. In the Transformers universe, Unicron is the largest Transformer in existence. This planet-sized robot, which is neither an Autobot or a Decepticon, first appeared in 1986's The Transformers the Movie. Known as the Lord of Chaos and the Eater of Worlds, Unicron's singular purpose is the consumption of the multiverse, planets, moons, stars, and the very fabric of existence itself. Now, while any Transformers fan worth their toy collection knows all about Unicron, did you know that when the planet-eating robot roars in the film, the sound is actually that of a Marvel Comics character? That's right, true believers. Unicron's roar is a recycled sound effect from 1982's The Incredible Hulk animated series. Legendary actor Orson Welles, who was the voice actor for Unicron, was probably too weak to perform the roar himself. In fact, the Hollywood icon died from a heart attack a year before the film's theatrical release. Amazingly, 1986's The Transformers the Movie marked the final film performance of not only Orson Welles, but also that of famed actor, singer, dancer, and musician Scatman Crothers. Known for a vast variety of guest appearances on popular television shows ranging from The Twilight Zone to Charlie's Angels, and roles in Hollywood films like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, Crothers was also a prolific voice actor for animated films and television shows. Before becoming forever associated in the minds of kids in the 80s with the voice of the Autobot Jazz during the original run of TV's Transformers, Scatman Crothers provided the voice of the title character of 1974 Saturday morning cartoon TV's Hong Kong Phooey. Reprising his role as Jazz one final time for the Transformers film, the actor passed away in November of 1986, 2 months after the film's release. Did you know that the rarest toy ever produced by Hasbro from its Transformers line was the Autobot known as Fortress Maximus? In addition to being the most rare of the Transformers toys, Fortress Maximus was also the biggest, measuring in at an impressive 22 inches tall. Aside from his robot form, the toy boasted 2 additional transforming modes, one that turned him into a fortress or battle station, and another that turned him into a miniature city. Produced for Hasbro's Transformers the Headmasters toy line in 1987, Fortress Maximus was an early name for the characters that would eventually become Omega Supreme and Metroplex. In the Marvel Comics adaptation of the 1986 movie, Autobot City is referred to as Fortress Maximus in a caption, but the character and toy wouldn't actually be introduced to stores until nearly a year after the movie's release. I hope you enjoyed this look into Transformers #1, the first issue from Marvel Comics. This really was a special issue for me. I've been a Transformers kid since the television shows of the 80s. I just really enjoyed watching it, and I still do to this day. I still go on there and get my DVDs out and watch the old cartoons and read the books. So if you're enjoying the content, I want to thank everybody for watching this video or any other videos. And if you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe and ring the bell for other videos to come. Coming up Saturday night, episode 5 of Into the Comiverse. We're going to do Transformers. We're going to talk about comics, toys, cartoons, whatever. The whole theme for the show is Transformers. So we'd love for you to hang out in the chat, or if you want to jump on and talk Transformers, you're welcome to do that as well. We are in the final days of the CBC Award nominations. So if you haven't nominated your favorite YouTube content creator yet, you can go to www.cbcawards.org and nominate your favorite creators, and do this before August 5th. That is the deadline. As always, I'm going to post some links down below for some YouTube content creators that are making awesome videos. You should check out their stuff and give them a like and subscribe as well. And in the next episode of Tony's Comics Spotlight, we're going to talk about the first appearance of Green Arrow and Aquaman in More Fun Comics issue number 73. And also, coming up next week, I'm going to do some unboxing videos for my birthday. My 50th birthday is this Monday, July 31st, and I've got some stuff ordered. I've got some AOKs coming, so next week should be pretty fun. I'm going to unbox some stuff, do some videos, and I'll get them out. I may not get them all out next week, but who knows. And I'm also going to do some shorts focusing on my Transformers comics. So I hope everybody has a great night, and until next time, take it easy, be safe, God bless. See you.